T-1000 wins.
WB Games invited us up to the studio a lot this week to check out Mortal Kombat 1's latest and possibly their last DLC character. It's the T-1000 from Terminator 2, and like a lot of Mortal Kombat's other guest characters, there's a lot of fan service involved here, there's a lot of attention to detail. You see it in his interactions with the rest of the game's roster, you see it in his fatalities, and you also hear it from the original actor for the movie, Robert Patrick. His voice has obviously aged a little bit since Terminator 2, but he's still really menacing in this role, and you hear it in a lot of his interactions, and you see it in action.
Skynet wants you dissected and analyzed.
Ha! How? You gonna turn into a giant scalpel?
But how does the T-1000 play? He's very different from the T-800 that you might recall from Mortal Kombat 11, and that difference is obvious. That's because the T-1000 is constructed with liquid metal, and that means he's able to bend some of the typical rules of physics that might hold some of the other fighters back. He can move around the field, he can fall on his opponents like a big heavy blob, and he can slice and dice with his big blade hands, sort of like Baraka does. Or he can hammer the opponent with his liquid metal form, kind of like Shao Kahn does. Of course, if you'd rather take out his sidearm and fire away at your opponents from a distance, you're welcome to do that as well. I didn't do it personally, but if you want to take advantage of that, that's certainly an option.
Force field. Hit the ground.
While the T-1000 shares a few things in common with some of the other Mortal Kombat characters, his overall presentation makes him feel like somebody entirely different from the fighting game world, and that's Glacius from Killer Instinct. They share a lot in common, and that's because of their liquid metal form, and Glacius had that form himself back in Super NES days. They both also share a puddle punch, and the puddle punch, old school Killer Instinct fans will remember, it used to take you from one end of the stage to another, and then you just strike with a big old uppercut. The T-1000 can do that too, and he can also come from behind your opponent, so you can totally cross them up. You can also act as a total tank with your amorphous step move. What you can do with that is you can basically absorb a couple of blows, put on some super armor, and then you can hammer away at your opponents as you get up to them. But the thing with that is that you can only absorb so many blows before, your form gives way and you collapse into like a big old blob. I found some inconsistencies with that. There were some instances where you could take advantage of his super armor and you can start performing combos on your opponents. And there were other instances where I ran into a character like Peacemaker with his sidearm who just kept firing away at me, and he was able to turn me into a blob real fast. So keep that in mind when you're playing as the T-1000. You could totally use the enhanced version of this move. You can absorb some additional hits, but be careful when you're trying to play defensively with the amorphous step, because it doesn't always work out the way you kind of hope it will. I had a lot of fun with the T-1000. I think he's going to be an awesome character. It's a great way for Mortal Kombat 1 to go out, if this is in fact the way they're going out. If you want to try him out, the T-1000 is coming to Mortal Kombat 1 on Tuesday, March 18th.
Round one. Fight!